Welcome, everybody. Be starting in 1 minute. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Welcome to our second in the series, the webinar series for the regional district on RDCK climate actions. This webinar for the next hour is focused on buildings and energy. And we'll be having Sherry Amada speak about buildings and also a little bit about energy. And then myself, I'll be picking up as well for around energy. Before we begin, we'd just like to provide an outline of the session. So I'm going to speak to the revised engagement process that we shared with residents last Thursday, go through some housekeeping, provide some information about our new and existing pathways and actions, and then we'll move into the presentation mode and then move into questions and discussion. So last Thursday, as I mentioned, we shared a revised engagement strategy via our media release. It's also available on our website. If you go to services and sustainability, and then into climate action and get involved, all the information is there. You can register for these webinars. There's the information about the open houses, which are scheduled from August through October. And there's also information to come, more information to come about our subject meetings. We also have a few online tools in addition to the webinars. We're launching an online engagement tool called engage.rdck.ca focused on climate action this Friday. And then we'll also be doing a series of dialogue circles in August. In terms of the climate actions, a reminder that we have, and if this is new to you, welcome. And we have 10 pathways in the RDCK climate actions that define the actions that are proposed for the climate action plan. Today, we're talking about 2 of them, energy and buildings. And then we will have, yesterday we spoke about land use and recovery and resource recovery. The recordings of the webinars will be on our website. And there are also information about upcoming webinars. There are about 95 actions in each proposed in the plan. They're across, as I mentioned, 10 pathways. And there are 60 of them which exist in current work plans, meaning they're part of the business and they've gone through the processes for approval, whether that's through the board or through a regulatory process. They're already in our work plans, and then there are 35 that are new. And through these webinars, we're talking about both the existing and the proposed. The intent of these webinars is to provide a level of information about the pathways and provide some information from staff who are the ones that are leading these actions and work and have them in their work plans. And then we'll also provide opportunity for residents to ask questions. We don't imagine that we can answer all the questions, and so you're always invited to follow up with us by email, and we're doing our best to answer all questions. And then there'll also be additional time to ask questions in the open houses. Some information about this particular webinar and the structure that we're taking. So it is a webinar, it's being recorded, and as I mentioned, and my apologies, it says there resource recovery and land use, it should say energy and buildings. It's going to be recorded and put on our website. We're going to have questions after both the presentations, and please keep your questions specific to the pathways. We'll, because we anticipate that we'll have quite a few questions, we'll take questions from one person and then provide as many voices as possible before coming back to you if you have multiple questions. We ask that you use the Q&A function, which is at the bottom of the toolbar on your screen. And then also the chat is available if you'd like to, as I noticed people have been introducing themselves, saying where you're from. That's fantastic. We'd love to see here and see where people are calling in from today. And that's the presentation. So just as introduction, my name is Paris Marshall-Smith. I'm the sustainability planner for the regional district. Myself and Alex Lefflar, who's there as well in the camera, will be your host for today. Alex is providing technical assistance and maybe responding to some of the questions behind the scenes. And then, as mentioned, we have Sherry Amata, who's a senior energy specialist who's going to speak to both buildings and to energy. And I'll now pass it over to her. Thank you, Sherry.
Thanks, Paris. Hi, it's great to see you here. As Paris said, my name is Sherry Amata. I am the senior energy specialist at the RDCK, working in the community sustainability area. Today, I will be talking about what we're doing in the buildings realm and in the energy realm at the RDCK and in the community. So the agenda for today, if you could just advance Paris. The agenda today will be to be looking at the buildings and basically what we're talking about when we're looking at buildings and carbon pollution and climate action. Then we'll be looking specifically at new homes and the energy step code and another step code that might be coming out in the future. And then we'll be looking at the regional energy efficiency program, which is the RDCK's support program to help homeowners and contractors with the different rebates and technical information regarding energy retrofits. And then talking about other initiatives that we are taking, including training, collaborations, and how we're advocating to the province and at the federal levels of government. Finally, we'll be talking about the RDCK corporate building initiatives that we're taking within the buildings and energy realm. And then, as Paris said, we will also be talking a little bit about grid resiliency. Paris will take that part, and then we will be having the questions, answers, and discussion. Next. So just to relate it back to the climate actions, you can see here that buildings are there, and energy in the top row there, the third and fourth category of they are pathways within the climate action plan. Next. So carbon pollution and buildings, basically how it relates in the realm of our community carbon pollution is that buildings account for 20% of the carbon pollution in the RDCK. Residential buildings do emit around 76,000 tons of CO2 equivalent currently within the RDCK. Next. And so you can see our goals there with the carbon pollution and the buildings. Our targets are by 2030 to reduce emissions by 50% and 2050 to reduce emissions by 100%. So they are quite lofty targets, but in any case, there's lots to do to reach those targets in a timely manner. Next. So the ways to reach these reduction targets, and specifically I'm talking about buildings here. So we can increase the energy efficiency within our residences, within our businesses and community buildings. These could be, it could be attained by increasing insulation levels in your building envelope, to increase air tightness, by switching out heating systems to lower carbon heating systems, which are efficient, to look at water heating and your lighting. to change to LED lighting systems and optimizing the lighting as much as possible. Also, as I was saying, to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, moving to a lower carbon source, energy source for your space and water heating. We can also design for long-lasting buildings and use durable materials. So instead of using maybe more cost-effective materials at the beginning, to actually think about what materials will be more durable with age, so that we're not building to a 10 to 20 year time period, but more building towards the 50 to 100 year lifespan. We can also build less, so we can optimize our space and retrofit our existing buildings instead of building new. We can also use renewable energy sources. That could be from solar, that could be using possibly wind or water sources, hydro sources, microhydro, I should say. And then we could also consider using embodied carbon, or considered embodied carbon, in choosing our building materials. And I have a slide about that one a little bit later, so maybe I'll explain that one later. Next. So to give you a little bit of a visual, here is a typical residence. So this is the items that we would be thinking of when we are looking at energy retrofits or in saving energy. We'd be looking, starting from the top left, I think it would be on your screen, talking about airtight construction. So really looking at the building envelope and how to decrease all the leaks. That would also include the air sealing, which is on there. We would use high performing or Energy Star equipment, and this could be appliances, this could be heating systems, both space and water. We could be looking at, and I'm at the top right now, the Energy Star windows, looking at the lighting, using LEDs, the appliances again, and also looking at using better insulation in the walls, attics, and in the basement. Next. This slide speaks to the embodied carbon. So this is relatively new research that is coming out, and actually the city of Nelson is doing quite a bit of this research, which is quite exciting. It talks to the fact that usually when we're talking about carbon pollution, we're looking at operational carbon emissions, which is the energy use that is used during the occupation of the house, or as you are living in a residence or occupying a building as a business owner or user. The embodied carbon emissions talks to the rest of the emissions that are used during the extraction of the building materials, the processing of that, transportation to the site, and then disposal, and the maintenance of those materials. So that is called the embodied carbon emissions of a material. The city of Nelson has some design guidelines regarding the embodied carbon. And in the future, it may get into the building code or more formally inform decisions on how to reduce carbon pollution within our buildings. Next, thank you. So I'm going to move into new buildings. Just looking at the time. So I'm just going to have this slide here on building regulation in the BC and some background. So as you're aware, there is a building code. This was stemming from a federal national building code, which was published in 1941. And the provincial code, skimming down to the fourth point, the 2018 BC building code, it is based off of the National Building Code with some province-specific information. And that code is a provincial regulation that governs how new construction, building alteration, I should say, major building alterations, repairs and demolitions are completed. Traditionally, this has given minimum requirements, which talks to life safety, structural safety, health, accessibility, fire protection of the buildings, and in recent years have moved more towards looking at energy and water efficiency. In the RDCK, building regulation and the permit issuance began in 1967. So most recently, there has been a new energy step code that has come in alongside the building code and actually has been integrated into the building code that I talked to in the previous slide. So it was introduced in April 2017 as a voluntary measure, and the RDCK board adopted step 1 of this code in December of 2020. Step 1 was compliance only, so it was the requirement to have an energy advisor model your building and see what energy savings or energy usage the new building has compared to a 2018 baseline building. In May 1st, 2023, the province legislated step 3 as the mandatory minimum for a Part 9 building, which is housing and small buildings. And this would be equivalent to 20% more efficient than that baseline 2018 residence. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, you got it there. So this is just a simple process for achieving the step 3. It is a similar process as before with the step 1, which has been in since 2020. So it's familiar to most builders. And also to note that in our experience, many builders are already achieving or were already achieving higher levels of the step code prior to the mandatory step 3 move this year. So a lot of builders were actually already getting step 3 or step 4, which is equivalent to 20% or I think it was 30 or 40 for step 4. And there for step 3, you are able to achieve this without significant changes to the structure of the building or so on. Just to note that the process actually includes obtaining an energy advisor, having a model of your home, and then having a blower door test to test the air tightness at the closure when your drywall is in and such. And then there's a formula that is then calculated that then says that you're at step 3 or above, and then that allows you to pass or to achieve that step 3 compliance for the energy step code. Next. So I alluded to before that there is another step code in the works for greenhouse gas emissions. This is the zero carbon step code for new homes. It is suggested that this might come in as early as 2024. This is another national and then provincial initiative. So in this, there's 3 different steps. The moderate step, which is the base step, would be low carbon space heating systems. So it would be changing basically natural gas systems, if you have it, to a lower carbon alternative. In the strong category, both the space heating and the water heating will need to be changed to a lower carbon alternative. And zero carbon would include the primary appliances like your cooking stove. And just to clarify that this would be for new homes only, so it's not, it doesn't apply to energy retrofits in existing homes. Okay, I'm just going to go on to the Regional Energy Efficiency Program here. This is a program that the RDCK holds, and it's targeted towards all homeowners that are looking at energy retrofits or looking at obtaining step 3 or more in their new home. So the Regional Energy Efficiency Program was originally rolled out by the City of Nelson for their population in 2012 under the name of EcoSave. And then in 2019, the City of Nelson then expanded their program and acted as a contractor to the RDCK to expand the offerings to the whole of the RDCK. So originally the program was designed to accelerate energy retrofits, and it offers support in navigating through financing options and rebate programs, and increase the understanding of how energy usage is used in the home. Next. So there's, yeah, you could see that there's a lot of programs that are designed to help with energy efficiency in homes. But if you could do another click there, Paris, it's quite confusing because of all the programs. And people not knowing where to start and not being aware of the different programs that are available. So yeah, so it was found that building and renovating homes was daunting, and that's why this program is available to help homeowners with that process. So yeah, if you wanted to go on there. So there's 3 different streams with the Regional Energy Efficiency Program, or REEP for short. This would be the home renovation or existing home retrofits. There's also the new home program, and then there is also an energy conservation assistance program, which is available for income qualified home owners using collective income from one residence. And this program aids with providing an energy audit free of charge, and then the ability to actually possibly do some funding for some rebates, or sorry, funding for some larger projects like installing a heat pump or adding more insulation. So there's a little bit more assistance in that program, a financial assistance available in that program, but there also is quite a bit of rebates available for all of the programs. And the REAP program helps to navigate all of this. Do you know how much time I have left? Okay. Maybe if we could show the video. Just to give you a flavor of what this program is. This video is from the EcoSave days, but it hopefully will give you a little bit of flavor of the REAP program.
Hi, my name is Kim Horrocks, and I have lived in this house for the past year and a half or so, but it was built in 1898, so it has a few issues to tend to. First off, when I did an evaluation at the beginning of my time in this house, the furnace seemed like a bit of a problem. The monthly bills could go up to $500 in the winter time, and that seemed like just far too much for me. And then switching things over to be more efficient, both water-wise and energy-wise, was a priority for me. I had the energy evaluation or audit, where they come in and they suck all the air out and they check for all the drafty spots. So I was reassured that the insulation is actually really good for an old home. Furnace definitely needed to be replaced. That was the big one. And insulation in the basement, which is yet to happen. But I switched over all of the light fixtures to LED and replaced the appliances with energy efficient appliances. I would absolutely recommend the grant process with older homes especially. If you're looking to maintain some of the heritage qualities of your home, you just have to up the energy efficiency because the standards were different and we have progressed so much technologically that there are a lot of things you can do to improve now that weren't available before. Working with the grant program is fantastic because a lot of these things are the bigger financial pieces like a furnace replacement and those sorts of things. And when you roll it into your monthly gas bills, I'm now paying much less on my monthly bills, even factoring in the loan process and the grant that was received, and basically doing a better service to the environment by not burning $500 a month in gas.
Great, thanks. So just to mention, Kim there in the video was talking about a loan that is provided by Nelson Hydro, which is only available to City of Nelson homeowners. However, right now there is another loan that's available called the Canada Green Building. I think it's the Green Housing loan. Or something along those lines. Sorry, there's a lot of different programs available, but that is available for loans across the RDCK. So again, Reed would be able to tell more about that, or let people know more about that. So just in terms of the program elements quickly, it is a concierge support program. And so it's just there will be people that will help you through the program. There are some light technical support that's available in terms of heating systems and such, and insulation types, things like that. But it's not in place of a contractor or some other source that would be able to give technical information and give you support in that way, but it would support you through the EnerGuide home evaluations, incentive rebates, grants, and loan opportunities, which is that low interest financing opportunity. And like I said, it's available to increase literacy within just the realm of energy efficiency options. And we also are hoping to improve the equity and access to energy retrofits, and that would be through this literacy and also hooking up with programs like the ECAP program. So there's a tip to access. You can access the Clean BC rebates on your own, and there's the link there on the screen. But also you can access through the REAP program. Next. Just to note that we are in the midst of obtaining new financing for REAP. So this would be we've revamped the program or enhanced the program somewhat. So we are hoping in the future to have more access to enhanced financing, to have some top-up rebates on top of the Clean BC rebates, looking at a multi-platform marketing plan, bumping up our customer relations management, and we have a ground-oriented database that we are it's a program that we're putting out, which would basically allow us to more target different areas within the RDCK of similar type of buildings, etc., that we could help residents more easily, and providing pilots and studies and homes tours, workshops, things like that. So to access the READ program, you would go on to the RDCK website, and I have the access down there at rdck.ca/REAP. And just to let you know that in 2022, we did have 373 registrants in this. So people are accessing this program. And we did have 150 energy assessments using an energy advisor for existing homes out there. So this is a viable way of making progress in energy retrofits in homes. Okay, I'm just going to go on to some other programs that the RDCK is providing in the realm of buildings and energy. So we have a pathway of public education and training. We work with our member municipalities, our neighboring regional district, the RDKB, and different nonprofit organizations to provide training. You can see there, we work with the Kootenai Clean Energy Transition and the Canadian Home Builders Association, Fortis BC. They provide some funding or have access to funding. We're able to provide some training. Sometimes these trainings are free. Sometimes the contractor training, there is some fee for the training. However, the topics that we've been looking at in the spring have been building envelope, airtightness, ways to achieve this. We had the BCIT High Performance Homes Lab come out with all of their building envelope sections, teaching contractors and homeowners how to achieve better airtightness in their homes. We've had sessions on HVAC systems, in choosing heat pumps, in balancing ventilation systems, and we've also had training in renewable energy systems such as solar array systems. And to access this training or to see what's going on, again, we do publish these on our social media, but also on our website at rdck.ca in building. And then if you go to the drop down menu, you click on training and events. Thanks. Other community initiatives that we're doing, we're strengthening, we help to strengthen the contractor network for energy retrofits right now for heat pumps and for insulation improvements. The residents do need to have a qualified contractor, or I should say a certified contractor, through a network called the Home Performance Contractor Network. But it has been suggested that we don't have enough contractors within this network. So the RDCK is working to strengthen this contractor network. So we're working with the Home Performance Contractor Network to hopefully recruit contractors and to help them through the process of registration so that more contractors are available for this work. We also get input on provincial policies. So this could be the iterations of the energy and the carbon step code. There also is an existing buildings renewal strategy that is in existence at the national or the federal level. There is a proposed alterations code which would touch on energy retrofits. That's going to possibly come out at the provincial level, so we would be able to input on these policies. And our main objective would be to emphasize the rural specific concerns that would be present if these codes do arise. We also collaborate with other local governments and organizations. So we're involved in some peer networks, which work on things like deep energy retrofits, how to further the step code and energy efficiency in our homes, things like that. And we also do projects that span across multi-communities. This fall, right now, we're thinking of sorry about that, thinking of being involved in a climate-friendly homes tour that would showcase to residents what a climate-friendly home would look like, or give examples of that. We're also quickly involved in a case studies program, so hopefully these will come out soon, and it's 5 examples of how different builders and homeowners have achieved step code with high performance homes. Next. This is just my last slide, just talking about the RDCK corporate facility initiatives. The RDCK owns and operates over 65 facilities. So we are working with our own facilities to further energy efficiency. I just have some examples here. Quickly, we are putting in a solar panel array system at the Creston Community Complex. Although it will only offset about 3 to 5% of the energy of that complex, it is leeway into the renewable energy realm and an example of what can be done. We also are doing energy upgrades at 17 of our fire halls right now, and this is in the form of increased insulation, lighting upgrades, heating upgrades, things like that. We're doing $150,000 energy efficiency upgrade in our water treatment plant in Erickson, the Arrow Creek treatment plant, which serves the Erickson area and the town of Creston. We also have a better corporate buildings policy in place. And so we're going through talking to different departments about this, but what this means when they are looking at renovations or looking at new buildings. We are also monitoring energy in our facilities using Portfolio Manager. We also are involved with a measurement program called the Local Government Climate Actions Program. We measure our emissions, and then we also do get a grant, not based on our emissions, but because we are participating in this program. Finally, for the corporate facilities, we are looking at an overall emissions reduction pathway study. And this funding application is in process. Through this, we'd be looking at the whole portfolio and looking at initiatives that we can do, specific initiatives that we can do for every building in order to lower our emissions. So hopefully that comes into place and we could do that over the next couple of years. And yeah, that's all I have. Thank you. I think, did you want to put that at the end? The contact information. Maybe you want to speak to yours first, and then we could put our contact information.
Or if you can add it into the chat as well.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you so much, Sherry. That was fantastic. I'm just going to scroll through some slides here and then add to what Sherry's talked about. And really, the Regional Energy Efficiency Program is one of our key responses around energy. And our energy pathway. So we've just heard from buildings, both corporate and community. And now I'm going to speak a little bit about energy. And yeah, thank you very much, Sherry, again, for that great overview of all the things that are happening around our buildings. And so in the energy pathway, as it says here, our goal is we're really guided by this goal that was established by the board of working towards 100% renewable energy by 2050. And so the actions in this pathway support that transition to a low carbon and energy resilient future. But it's also it's woven into a lot of our other pathways as well. So while there are a lot of actions in this pathway, this focus on renewable energy and increasing our energy efficiency is a guiding element of many of our actions in other pathways. And it can the way that we approach energy from the climate action plan is first to reduce pollution. So we're looking at ways that we can conserve our energy by either shutting systems down, like turning off our lights when we're not using them, or reducing the amount that we're using our vehicles, or as Sherry was explaining, reducing the amount of energy that's used in buildings, whether it's in the design process, in the construction, or in the operation. And then the second round is looking at how do we focus on that systems that are less carbon intensive. And so it might be a switch to electrification, it might be fuel switching using a different type of energy. And primarily we see this as an opportunity when you're in that switching mode. So for example, my mom just replaced her, was looking at a new heating system because her 70-year-old furnace was no longer working. And so she at that point chose a heat pump. And it didn't make sense to replace it when it was still working, but when she had the opportunity to replace it, it made sense. And that might be an example. And I just here, it's an opportunity to correct that we're definitely not, we see wood stoves as an important part of our energy resilience. And so while there's been some information about that we're taking away wood stoves, we actually have a wood stove exchange program and see that as an important part of our resilience, an important part of a low carbon energy source. And then the last focus is to create energy efficient systems. And so that's looking at what are the technologies that we can encourage in our communities. And that a lot of that was highlighted by what Sherry explained, and also will be highlighted in subsequent webinars, particularly transportation of coming visitors. See, these are some of the actions that we talk about in the booklet. So looking at increased electrical grid resilience. And I just wanted to provide a little bit of information of how we're actually supporting this, because these are actions that are at play and not part of the new action. So we recognize that a lot of our communities are vulnerable to increased and prolonged electrical outages, and this provides a level of vulnerability in communities. So we're working with both the utilities, but also trying to understand our role as the regional district on how to improve that that resilience. And there's a pilot underway currently in Largo to understand what that looks like at a community level, and we hope to expand that into other communities. And then other areas, so looking at where there is electric vehicle infrastructure, making sure that it is tied in well, and so that there's a future proofing and tied in well with our utilities, and so looking at working with them with grid resilience as well. And then lastly, it's how to provide education around how to achieve regional energy emission targets. And this is, again, speaks to the work that Sherry's doing and work around REAP, but also through climate action. It's like, what are the opportunities and how do we promote energy conservation or low carbon intensity options? So just to highlight a few of the things I've just mentioned. So the Regional Energy Efficiency Program is a really important program, and we encourage you to get involved. Corporate and community programs to support reduction of pollution and increase resilience. And that's so corporate in terms of the buildings that the RDCK manages, and then providing influence to community programs. And that might be assisting with a grant application to a community hall. We've done that in a few different communities and are keen to work with communities if they need assistance, or it might be providing some information about what can be done and also learning from other what exists in community. And then the last is the pilot on regional grid resilience that's happening in the Lardo Valley, and hoping to learn from that and then apply the learnings in other communities. And that's it. So we'll now open it up for questions. And I'll just get out of this. Sharing. Thanks. So we'll open it up for questions and invite, I know this looks like there's been a lot of questions in the Q&A, wonderful. And so we'll direct some to Sherry. It looks like she's been answering some questions. And Sherry, anything that you want to provide in a live answer? And we also have Alex here, who's also been answering questions as well. So yeah, lots of questions that have been answered. And yeah, I see Amy, you've asked quite a few questions. Maybe we'll just start with the first one there. LED lights have made you sick and you've had to go back to incandescent lights, smart meters, Wi-Fi, energy saving. Oh no, my computer just wanted to do an update. Insulate and are all not safe, but are being sold without warning for asbestos, which is needed, and more. Sherry, you were about to provide an answer. I wonder if you could just share that answer with the webinar folks.
Sure, no, that sounds good. Yes. And I think there's another question.
Farrell down below.
Farrell, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and Amy's sorry to hear that the LEDs have given you health issues. I guess that is a possibility. I know some people that react badly to fluorescent lights as well. So I just think that in the big realm of things, LED lights and all of these things that we've talked about are basically one solution or individual solution. So I think totally, like if you need to use incandescent lights, and it's great that you're using smart technology to control your lights and things like that. But it's an individual solution, and it's not going to be the right solution for everybody. So I think it's really important to think about possibly how can I as an individual take care of my health and all my other things, and what is my priority in saving energy in my home per se. And some things will not apply to me and will not work, but maybe instead of the LED lights, maybe I can instead look at controls on my thermostat or something like that, instead of turning off lights. I think like you were saying, using controls or something like that instead of changing everything to LEDs. I think your other question about the insulation and asbestos, I believe asbestos mostly has dissipated in use in construction materials by the 1990s. But yes, I mean, in the past, there was lead paint, there was asbestos, and many construction materials that were hazardous to our health. But I do think that materials have evolved over time. But yes, I think that there is propensity for the individual homeowner to make decisions on how natural they want their building materials to be. So there is some leeway in that, and I would recommend speaking to either going to a building center and having conversations there, or to your contractors or to neighbors to see what other building materials are being used, and if you maybe need to go to all natural building materials instead of manufactured materials, things like that.
Thanks, Sherry. Great. Yeah, so we also provide that also responds to Farrell's question. By recommending all LED lights, has any research been done to the effects on and levels of UV and high level blue emitted from the phosphorus on white LED elements? So yeah, so it's really at the discretion of homeowners to choose the products that make most sense for their lives. These are recommendations, and energy efficiency can be achieved in a variety of ways. Corinne asks the question, what buildings is the RDCK planning on retrofitting? And what if the public determines they do not want taxpayer money spent on this? And I can help answer that question if that's helpful, but maybe, yeah, first, do we have a plan for buildings?
Well, as I mentioned when I was speaking the webinar portion, we do have an application to do a study to look at energy and GHG emissions reduction measures that we could do in all of our buildings across the RDCK. So that's the first step. But actually we are retrofitting right now. So we're doing different energy retrofits. And this usually happens when assets within equipment within facilities are at their end of life. So when we are changing those out, we will go to more energy efficient equipment, and typically with this we will do a return on investment or a life cycle analysis to make sure that we will gain the energy savings over a certain time period, I guess, but like a 10 to 20, to make sure that we have a payback that actually makes financial sense to do this. So we don't just pay for expensive energy retrofits that will not pay back in the future. We always make sure that either we get a grant or a rebate that will help us with the capital purchase, or we make sure that it makes sense financially to replace an asset with an energy efficient alternative.
Excellent, thank you. And in terms of often these types of plans are included, and we're in the process of creating an asset management plan, and so that will be available for public to be aware of once it's completed. But also these are included in our annual work plans, which are part of the budget process. And so the public always has an opportunity to comment on the budget process, which is from January to March of every year. And of course, you're always welcome to make your opinions known through your elected officials. We then have a question from Tony Hayward. How can homeowners of older homes, for example, older people on a pension, pay for this? I'm wondering if you're referencing retrofits or some of the programs that Sherry was speaking to. People who have finally paid off their mortgage and now they have to take out a loan. From what I understand, even if Canada stopped emitting any carbon at all, it would not make a difference to the world carbon quote unquote output. So people are having to pay for what?
Okay, so I think there are different available programs. There are income qualified programs, so that would be for homeowners that meet a certain household income limit. So that might be helpful for someone on a pension. These programs are voluntary, so it's not required that anyone do these, but typically when you change things out and be more energy efficient, you also will have some energy savings on a month-to-month basis. So there is a balance between putting out the capital expense of upgrading an end-of-life piece of equipment, for example, or something to more energy efficient, and then actually saving money on a monthly basis through your energy bills. Maybe I should say that through the REAP program, even if you want to learn more about energy efficiency options, you don't have to go through the whole process, but even if you had questions about different options, you could contact them and get some more answers for your questions.
Thank you very much, Sherry. That's great. The next question is from Kate, and I will respond to this one. Do you know that, and Sherry, please do you know that sustainably harvested wood is a renewable resource? Where does this fit in? In the context of energy efficiency, I think as I mentioned, that we see it as an important part of energy resilience. So wood stove heating wood heating is an important part of energy resilience. It is both very accessible to residents, it's affordable to residents by and large, and it's not determined by a macro grid. So yeah, we do see it as a renewable resource, and we see it as a resource that's really important to maintaining the resilience of our communities. Moving on to, and just as a comment, we are just choosing one question per person. There are multiple questions from many people, and so we're trying to get as much of the diversity as possible. Concerned citizen, why has the RDCK chosen to race to net zero ready by 2030, which is 2 years ahead of the permanent province's goal of 2032? The RDCK hasn't chosen to do that. That's a proposal, and it's really with this idea of preparing the industry so that we are able to provide the level of education and help support industry be as prepared as possible for what we anticipate will be a significant shift. Shauna has a question around electricity. The energy plan describes an intense increase in electricity use. How will the RDCK measure the impacts of electrosmog on the environment and long-term health effects for residents? And maybe I'll open that up to the room, see if there's anyone else. I don't have an answer for that. It's something that would be emerging, but yeah, anybody else have an answer?
I did leave some links in the Q&A.
Awesome, thank you so much, Alex. So yes, so there's some answers that have been provided by Alex as a background, but a great point, and we'll look into it. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit just to see if there's anybody that we haven't heard from yet. Then go back up to the top. Karen, I think, is a person that we haven't heard from yet. I don't see if there's actually a question or if there's been a comment that you've responded to.
There was a question up near the top regarding taxes, talking about if the rebates are from tax dollars, if our program is being funded by tax dollars, et cetera, et cetera. And just in response to that, the rebates right now are coming from provincial and federal sources, and from utility providers. So the ones that are coming from utilities, that would be in our area, Fortis BC, and BC Hydro, Nelson Hydro in the Nelson area. Those would be coming from offset from the sales of the utilities, of utility services. And then the provincial and the federal programs, they would be tax services or paid for by taxpayers for sure. I guess the issue is, and we've heard before, why would we kind of propagate this or apply for grants to get these tax dollars? But I guess the answer from us would be, well, even if we didn't apply for these programs or participate in these programs, these are programs that are provincially or federally based. So those tax dollars would still unfortunately be collected from these governments, regardless if we or homeowners in our area are accessing the funds, or if other people in other parts of the province or across Canada are accessing the funds. In respect to our programs, a lot of our programs are funded externally. So we do, for the training programs, for instance, we are right now getting funded. Those are, I should say, they are put on by other people, but they're getting funded from utility services, from different funders across BC. we also have access to our local government climate action program funds. And I can't, could you give a value to that, Paris, or?
I know, yeah, about 134,000 a year is what's received through LGK.
Yeah,
And I'm just aware of the times
Oh,
of,
okay.
yeah, so I do see that Julie L has their hand up in the as a panelist. Julie, did you want to ask a question either in chat or in the Q&A? Oh, and looks like Julie's gone. Great. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your questions. Thanks very much for the discussion. We look forward to, we have another session coming up on this Thursday, and look forward to seeing a great group there. Thanks very much, Julie, for clarifying. We look forward to seeing a great group there too, and this will be recorded and available on our website. All the best. See you then later. Goodbye.
thank you.